Hi, and welcome to Kim Talks Resilience. And I am super excited. This is my week of Kim's. I swear I keep finding all these amazing women with this name, Kim. Today we have Kim Sorrelle here with us, and we're going to shift a little bit outside of talking directly business strategies and that kind of entrepreneur mindset. And we're going to move a little more into the holistic approach to business and what next. And I'm really excited because we're seeing a lot of people, especially after the shift the world has gone through with the pandemic, they have sat back and reevaluated their life. And Kim's been doing this for a lot longer than most of us. And she's really starting to put kind of that rubber to the road right now and said, now's the time to share the message. Kim is the director of a humanitarian organization. She's a popular speaker and an author of 2 books. And I'm going to talk about one book here today. Her first book, Cry Until You Laugh, is about her and her husband's battle with cancer after being diagnosed just 4 months apart. Her second book, Love Is, chronicles her year-long quest to figure out the true meaning of love, a sometimes funny, sometimes scary, always enlightening journey that led to the life-changing discoveries found mostly on the streets of Haiti. So just so you know, I want everybody we're going to actually post after this podcast, we're going to post where to get this book because Jack Canfield got his hands on this. And Jack Canfield's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, everybody, please welcome to the stage the amazing Kim Sorrelle. I'm super excited to learn from you today, Kim.
Kim, I am happy to be here and I love your name.
It's a great name, eh?
It is. It is.
So share with me, give us a little bit backstory. I want to go through. I want to go through the journey of the cancer and what that taught you, because I think the world's been really shook up over the last few years, and we continue to get shaken right now with what's going on in overseas in Ukraine, and there's a lot of devastating news that's coming at us. And as somebody who's dealt with a double whammy, can you share with us like what you've taken from that and how you've built from that?
It's so interesting, Kim. I was diagnosed a few years ago with breast cancer, and it wasn't a lifetime moment where the doctor called me into the office and delivered the news in some dramatic fashion. I actually got a phone call at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Blah, blah, you have cancer, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know what to do, couldn't call anybody, whatever. Went to the bookstore and everything was either depressing or very medical and didn't tell me what to expect, really. And so I started writing, and that is my first book, Cry Until You Laugh. And 4 months after I was diagnosed, my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he passed away 6 weeks later. And when I was diagnosed, people would say to me, why you? Why you? You give, you do things for other people, you coach, whatever it is that people thought that I did that was extraordinary, that was different from what everybody else does. And we all do our own thing. But they'd say, why you? And my response was always, why not me? Why should I be immune? Why wouldn't it be me? And so I never really understood that question, because I don't think life and cancer discriminate that way. Life happens to all of us, and cancer can happen to any of us, or any other disease, or anything good or anything bad. And so that is one thing that I learned for sure. And then going through my husband's cancer and losing him, when we were going to be that couple in our 90s, rocking on the front porch with lemonade in our hands, right? And growing old together. And then at 47 years old to lose him and be alone shook my world, changed my life, changed the dream of my life, what I thought it was going to be. And I learned that I'm pretty darn resilient, and I'm stronger than I thought I was. And I would change it if I could. But there are things that happen in life that you have no control over. We have no control over. If I had control, I wouldn't choose cancer. I wouldn't choose my husband to have cancer. I wouldn't choose losing my husband. But there are things that I can choose. And I can choose to be happy. I can choose to have joy. I can choose to enjoy life. I can choose to continue to contribute to society. And so that is a big thing too, is to use the choices that you can make and make good ones.
That like challenge, choice, consequence, or how you choose to move forward. And I do really resonate with why not me, because it's like that's what I've lived by is why not me, right? For the good and the bad, right? Um, and I think sometimes the negative things are what show our true caliber, right? Of who we are. So you've gone through this. Now, at the time you're going through this, you also were running a business. So give us a little bit of insight as to kind of what you were doing, because you have big celebrations here where you've been able to do what very few Americans can do, where you are able to sell a company that has some value to it and move into your next stage of life. But let's go back and look at what you were doing at the time you were navigating these huge changes, these huge challenges.
Right. Well, I had a golf course and event facilities, 2 locations, and could feed 1,200 people on a Saturday night. And so we had some decent space and doing a lot of business. And at the same time, I was running a nonprofit organization. I stepped down from that when I was diagnosed with cancer. So I worked with my husband. It's kind of funny because he was the superintendent of our golf course and I was the GM. So he actually worked for me, which was a lot of fun for me, I got to tell you. But it was great. But so he kind of took over. He was, took over our businesses, and I was running a nonprofit and stepped down from that and was dealing. And then just recently, after 38 years in business, just in the last couple months, I have sold both businesses and am entering a brand new stage of life.
And that's really important, because that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, is that like success after 40, success after 50. We're seeing a lot of women in their 40s and 50s that right now are sitting here going, no more. I've got to live life the right way for me. I've got to shift this. So can you share with us a little bit of what that looked like, that shift, that in between time of when you were letting go of one, because they say good is the enemy of great, right? So everything's still good. Is it really, is there something, so what were you looking for? Can you share with us that kind of that in between time when you had to make those hard decisions and step forward into that opportunity of great?
Sure. I'm alone, right? And so I don't have a partner. I don't have somebody who has an income coming in. Well, I decide to not have income anymore and a regular stream of income, right? And so it's an interesting time, but it's definitely for the best. COVID changed my mind as far as how long I really wanted to keep the businesses. And I realized that I can do a whole lot of other things besides host people's weddings and events. And I wanted to branch out and see what it is that I could do. And now was just the right timing to reinvent, to change. And so through my head, one thing was, years ago, I remember meeting with a man that I was serving on a board with at the time, and he sold his business. And he was in his 40s and sold a business that he'd created and sold it for a lot of money and never really had to work again. And he made a comment to me that he didn't know what he was going to do. Like it was part of his identity. And so I really was a little torn, like, is this part of my identity? These businesses that I've had, is this part of who I am so much that it's part of my identity? And I decided, no, It's not. I'm Kim Sorrelle, period. And I'm grateful for all the business we got over the years. I'm grateful for staff that was incredible. I'm grateful for staff that was with me for 30 years. I'm grateful for all of it. I'm so grateful, but I'm also grateful for the buyer. And I'm also grateful to not be doing it anymore. And I'm grateful that it's not who I am, that it's something I did.
Absolutely. And it's something that you built. Not everybody's good at building businesses. Some people are really good at running businesses. So giving that gift of opportunity to the next generation of something that you've built is a whole nother level of almost philanthropy, in a sense that you have given the gift of revenue creation to somebody who is looking for a ready-made built turnkey style company, right? It's why franchises are there, right? So that, and that's when we talk about building businesses, you've always been. It seems to me that you've always been somewhat philanthropic. Can you tell me a little bit about your give back, Haiti, all these things, and then how that ties in now with what you're building forward?
Yeah. So I was raised that way. We would earn $1 and take 10 cents of it and put it in an envelope and give it to church. I was raised that we earn more to be able to give more, that money is strictly a tool, that it's not something to be coveted or held onto, but it's a tool. It's to be used and to be used for as much good as possible. So for years, I've been taking groups and going to Dominican Republic, to Haiti, to Burkina Faso, to other places, and been involved in the nonprofit world and helping in some of the poorest of the poor areas of our world, and in any way that I can, and as well as helping locally and volunteering locally. And that's one thing that I found is that I don't feel fulfilled unless I am giving and helping. Like, you can make as much money as you want to make. You can be, a tennis star. Andrea Agassi experienced this, right? Where he kind of fell from his position as number one, and he went through a depression, and then he started giving back and was on top of the world again. And so giving back is key. It's you got to make the time and make the effort and give. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. As we move from the industrial age to the age of knowledge, I think that we see more and more opportunities for this pursuit of giving, this pursuit of, you know, expanding our self worth through gifting of worth to others. Um, with that being said, I do want to jump into this book that you just released, and that I just still can't get over Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield, that's so cool. Um, I know that this is literally the first, almost like the first foot on the road of the journey ahead of you. You've got this huge journey laid out that you're probably the next 20 years of your life. Can you share with us why this book and what it represents for you in the movement forward on this next leg of your journey? And give our audience a little bit of what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yeah, well, I think it was Dale Carnegie that said that you spend the first half of your life making money and the second half of your life giving it away. And so after losing my husband, losing my love, it made me question love, the real meaning of love, the true definition. And you don't find a manual at a bookstore, or Love for Dummies isn't on the shelf. And so we learn love from people around us, from our parents, from whoever is in our life at any given time. And everything that we learn about love is not necessarily correct. It's not necessarily love. And things done in the name of love aren't necessarily love. And so I wanted to figure this thing out, what love really is, and am I doing it right, and what it actually looks like. So I decided that I would dedicate a full year to walk it, to figure it out. And I took a 2,000-year-old poem that you've heard at a lot of weddings and other places. Love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, etc. And I took one word a month to figure out, well, what is love that is patient? What is love that is kind? And most of the time that I was working on this, I was in Haiti. I was in Haiti 2 weeks after the 2010 earthquake that killed 200,000 people. And I continued to go to Haiti every month for several years after that. And so most of the time during this period of life, I was in Haiti. And what I found out is that every one of those words, and by the way, there are 14 of them. So my 1-year program didn't quite work out with the math. And so it took me a little bit longer than a year. But every single one of those words, as soon as you put love is or love is not in front of any of them, it completely changes the meaning of the word. And so the things that I found out about love are things that I have never heard before. It changed my life and rocked my world. And I really am so passionate about the message that it can bring to everybody, because everybody's life can change. Love, I don't believe, is an emotion like, excitement or fear. But love is walking and talking and living and breathing. It's who you are. You can be love to other people. But what does that look like? What does that even mean? And so I've done the homework for everybody. I lived the year, and it was an interesting time. I was chased by a motorcycle gang. I got lost on a mile-high mountain with a medical student in the dark. I slept outside with tarantulas and snakes and chupacabras or whatever it is that lurk in Haiti. And I tell those stories, the stories that lead me to the understanding of real love and what it really means. And I'm very passionate now about getting the word out, spreading the message of love.
How does something like this apply to women who have come through divorce? We see divorce is an epidemic, and it in the sense that it also, I think it inflicts self-doubt on personal wealth within a lot of women. And what do you think that you learned during that year that you can impart to women who, because loss is loss is one thing. It's something that happens to you. You don't have a choice in it. You've got to roll with the punches. Whereas divorce is something that you had to create a conscious decision around. And it's something that is still living around you, right? We can
Mm.
sell it. Does that make sense? Like it's becomes almost a negative for a lot of people on their personal, and I'm just curious how what you have explored could actually help somebody that has gone through that separation or that divorce, and they have to rediscover and reapply.
Right. Yeah. That's so true. I haven't really thought about that, but you're absolutely right, Kim. Divorce, I've always thought, well, you can still run into him in the grocery store or her in the grocery store, right? Like there's still contact, or if you have kids together or whatever. And I don't think anybody walks down the aisle in the big white dress and says I do and thinks someday that they're going to say I don't anymore. So it is hard. Friends that I know that have gone through divorce, it's tough. It is a time of mourning, right? You're mourning what you thought your future was going to be. And I think it's important to grieve it. I think it's important to, as women, we have to be strong. We have to be. And if we have kids, we have to be all the stronger. We've got to put on the right face. We've got to, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and charge ahead and excel in what we do. And I think it's okay to give yourself a break and realize that there's a time of grief that comes with divorce, and it's okay to grieve. It's okay to grieve, and to not kick yourself too hard. Like, don't live in that it's a failure. Divorce does happen. It's so common, and it's unfortunate. Nobody plans on it. But sometimes it's the best thing somebody can do in their life, that it's just a necessary thing. And it's not a failure, or it shouldn't be looked at that way. It's two people that grew apart. It's you marry somebody who you thought was something and find out there's something else, or someone, there's, infidelity, or there's reasons why people get divorced. And that doesn't mean that there's a failure on your part. It just means it happened. And grieve it, and then use it. Use it.
Absolutely. Could you, love is that exploration. Do you think that there is like a checklist in that book? Do you think that there is like, so we have the 5 love languages, right? So the love languages are really actually quite fun. And if you are out there and have not done the love languages with your partner, do it. My husband and I am so blessed, and I have been 27 years married to my business partner, my life partner, the father of my children. And it was funny. We did the love languages because he had to do it for a men's group. He's part of this really great men's group called K4 Men. And so they said, do this. So he did it. And he goes, now go have your partners do it. And we literally were within 1 or 2 points on every single one. Like literally they almost mirrored each other. So when we look at that, that's everybody kind of knows about the 5 love languages. When we look at love is and this exploration of the true definition of what love is and that breakdown and that better understanding, do you think that there's something in there that we could use before you get married, or when you're ending a marriage, or when you are now re-entering the dating world, which is not easy, especially as older women, right? And how do we, we all watch, I don't know if you watch the Tender Swindler on Netflix. It's like, okay, how do you avoid this? How do you make sure that you know what you're looking for?
Yeah. There's about 6 questions in there, I think, Kim.
I'm sorry. I love what you're doing.
Okay.
Yes. So
That's
back to
right.
question 1. Do you think that there's a checklist in love is that could be applied if somebody took time, read it, and fully understood it?
Yes, 100%, 100%, because every single one of those words is different than the other. Love is patient is different than love that is kind. Like for instance, love is patient. I thought I knew patience. You know what patience is, right? You're not honking your horn when you're stuck in traffic. You're not mad because you're ready to go. They're not ready to go. That's being patient. But what I discovered about love being patient is that you recognize, first of all, I believe you're supposed to love everybody. So even sitting here today, I love you, Kim.
I love you too, Kim.
and recognize that this is the most important moment of your life. What's in the past is in the past, and what's in the future is yet to come. And you love the person that you're with, the person that you're spending time with, enough to recognize that. And so not have your mind on, oh my gosh, I got to stop at the grocery store on my way home and pick up some milk, or I've got a meeting later today. Those things are going to happen when they happen. And it's so easy to miss this moment. But to say, how are you? And actually want an answer, actually care. Be patient in the moment. Sometimes people need to tell you something that is heavy on their heart, that they're going through. They just had a tough diagnosis. They just lost a job, whatever it happens to be, or happy news, whatever. But to be in the moment, that is love, that is patient, and which is way different than love that is kind and envy and boast, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, there's definitely this checklist, but it's kind of interesting because even though each one is different and you can learn so much, I learned so much from every single word, there's this arc that just covers it all. And with love, there's no condemnation, there's no judgment, there's no giving unsolicited advice, there's no saying, oh, let me tell you how to live your life better. There's none of that. It's just love, pure and simple love. And so with that comes complete freedom, because you're free to just love. You recognize that your life is your life and theirs is theirs. And you have no control over another human being. You have no control. Their decisions, their choices, the amount of love that they give or don't is totally up to them. Love's not a two-way street. So often we get married and they say, oh, it's 50-50, or it's 100%, 100%, whatever. No, love is not two ways. Love is something you give, you live, no matter how much you get in return, no matter what happens with somebody else. It's not conditional. It's not giving something to get something. It's strictly giving, period.
I love that. You give, you live. That is beautiful, because you can't take it with you, folks. And the legacy we leave behind is that legacy that continually gives, right? So we see businesses come and go, and we see money come and go, but having that legacy of character, that legacy of giving. So when we look at that, we look at your philanthropic, and when you combine that with your entrepreneurial spirit, and then this over a year long, almost like you were like went on this Buddhist retreat, right? That's really what it was, is this sabbatical, right? Yeah, I think Jay Sheedy talks about how he lived abroad, and at times he lived for a year as a Buddhist, and yeah, and lived, like he was talking about, in caves and stuff. So really, your journey is very similar to great thought leaders like Jay Sheedy, right? Um, what would be, in an ideal world, what would be next step for you? Because publishing a book is one thing, but how to reach or serve the masses is another, right? Who does your book serve, and how can you further that service? How can you further that support? So, what are some of the things that you are looking at doing over the course of this next year with the launch of such a great book?
Well, there's a couple things. I'm putting together some programs. I think it's a great book I've heard from Bible study groups that are doing it, book clubs that are doing it, families that are reading the book as a family and then Zooming together once a month, and talking about that chapter, doing a chapter a month, or small groups, or workplaces even. People that have bought it for all of their staff and then are working on figuring out how to love each other in a different way at work. And so putting a couple programs together is something that I'm working on now. And speaking, I'm speaking some. I'd love to speak more. And I think the opportunities are going to come, and I welcome them, because like I said, I'm passionate about the message. And it's easy to talk about. And it's one of those things that I think when you hear, like when, I talked about love that is patient. When you hear that, you're like, well, of course, that makes so much sense, right? And all of the things, it's like, oh, well, yeah, it makes so much sense. But until you know it, until you hear it, you don't know that it's going to make that much sense. And so it's something that we all need. It's something that the world certainly needs now. And it's something that can change the world, change your life, change how you see other people, change how you interact. So change everything about your life.
Absolutely. With the media, through either social media or broadcast media, any type of media, we're starting to get such polarized messaging, and it seems that messaging keeps pulling us further and further away from messages like yours, Kim. And that, what was it, John Lennon? Like, wasn't that the Beatles? All we need is love, and I absolutely agree with you. If you could challenge everybody who listens to this, be it now, today, or in the future through the podcast, one thing you could do, one thing we all could do in a day's time that makes just that slight change. Because all you need is a degree or two change, right? In order to change the trajectory of our behavior and responses and our engagement in our life, right? What would be the one thing that you would encourage everybody to do?
I think love with love that is patient. One thing about that is when you stop and are fully engaged, your ears open, you hear a different way. A confrontation can turn into a conversation and never go back to a confrontation. That it doesn't have to happen. But when you really listen to somebody, here we have Republicans and Democrats that are always at odds, right? Or vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, or, all these polarizing things that are happening. But if you actually stopped and talked to somebody and realize they can have their own opinion, you don't have to change anybody's opinion. It's not your job. All you have to do is love them. But if you listen to their actual words instead of assuming what they're going to say or having your answer ready, before they've even given theirs, you've got your rebuttal all set to throw back at them. But stop and be quiet and open your ears before you open your mouth and really listen to what somebody has to say. You might learn something. And you might find out we're not as far apart as you think we are, that we can learn from each other and grow by learning. So that would be my piece of advice, is really listen with open ears instead of open mouth.
That is absolute words to live by. That is great advice. Can you share with us your quote? I always like to close these out with a quote. What is your North Star? What is something that inspires you? Can you share a quote or a saying, something that's been shared with you or that you've read over the years that is your go-to?
Yeah, well, you already hit it. All you need is love. It's been said a bunch of different ways by a bunch of different people, but it really comes down to that love is all you need. If you have love, true love, everything else falls into place. If you're living it, giving it, everything else happens the way that it should happen. Everything else falls into place. So all you need is love.
All you need is love. Now that's going to be in my head, and I see the crosswalk and I see the Beatles walking across, and what a great way to spend the afternoon, and what a positive message. And I am excited to watch your brand awareness grow, because I think it's one that we all need to be aware of. So, Kim, can you share with us where we can find you? I do have your website up here, but is there any special platform that you really like to engage people in?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm on Facebook probably more than any of the other social platforms. But become a part of my mailing list. I like to send stuff out. I have something going right now, a 14-day love challenge for the 14 words, and it's on my website. And if you join, I'm sending out a free wristband, WWLD, what would love do? Because if you answer that, then you answer the right way, you do things the right way. But they're great wristbands, and I'd be happy to send you one, whoever would like one, and it's available right on my website. And my book, Love Is available on Amazon. It's available in brick and mortar stores. It's available on every platform online. It's available through my website. And I spread the word. Just spread the word. Love is all you need.
That is amazing. Thank you, Kim, for sharing your time today. Again, folks, my name is Kim Hayden, and this is where we are tackling resilience, because we all need more resilience and love. And I thank you so much for sharing your time, because we all know that's your most valuable resource that you have, and they ain't making much more of it. So, do invest your time in sharing and spreading that, live it and give it, that love message, understanding it. Do take action and go to Kim's site and get that 14-day challenge on understanding love. And until next time, please do like, share, subscribe, comment, let me know. And hey, if you're a lady with resilience out there, lots of it, I'd love to hear from you and give you this platform to spread the word of a bit more resilience and a lot of love. Again, Kim Hayden, Kim Talks. Thanks for joining me.